All right. Welcome, TAC. Good morning. Welcome to TAC. Members are reminded that these meetings are in person for quorum requirements. Members attending online may not vote, but may comment and participate in the discussion. To participate virtually, use the raised hand feature on your phone and we will call on you. There are two public comment points in this meeting. Any speakers in person are welcome to fill out a comment card by the door and give those to Rachel in order to speak. And now I'm going to turn it over to Slade for agenda review.
All right, thank you. Good morning again, everyone. Welcome to TAC. No agenda changes today, but I have a couple of announcements. Bike Walk Central Florida is having their annual Bike 5 Cities event tomorrow, October 25th. This event includes biking across 5 cities in Central Florida to raise awareness about bike trails across the region. This year, there's 2 options: Bike 5 Cities, which is a 30-mile route, including Orlando, Winter Park, Eatonville, Maitland, and Castleberry, or a 10-mile Bike Main Streets route from Winter Park to Orlando. More information at the link on the screen. Keeping up with the bike theme, the Florida Bicycle Association Summit will be held on November 14th in Winter Garden in Claremont. Registration is still open for that. If you are interested, go to floridabicycle.org, and the link is also on the slide. As Eric mentioned, during TSMO, the Florida Autonomous Vehicle Summit is coming up November 5th through 7th. That'll be held here in Orlando at the Champions Gate Omni Resort. Registration is still open, and so if you'd like more information, is available at that link on the screen. Additionally, just want to let everyone know that MetroPlan Orlando's office will be closed on November 11th for Veterans Day and November 27th and 28th for Thanksgiving. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about on our next slide is the annual Blind Experience event that happened last week. We had a great turnout. More than 75 people came out to learn what it's like to try and navigate busy downtown streets without visual cues. The experience was very meaningful for many people, including board and committee members. So if you missed it this year, it happens annually. Try and come next year because it really is, we always say to make a pun, it's a really eye-opening experience. So now I'll turn it over to Mike for our safety moment. Thanks.
Thank you, Slade, and good morning, everyone. We've come back around to October again for Pedestrian Safety Month. And this time around, rather than get into some of the nuts and bolts of how to be safe as pedestrians, I wanted to share some good news. What we've been seeing in the past couple of years is a really significant drop in pedestrian fatalities. And it's really attributed to reduction in alcohol and drug use. We see in the on this chart here, you can see that intoxicated pedestrians with alcohol are in blue, with drugs are in orange. You can see how much they've dropped off in 2024 and 25. 2025 is a projection based on the first 6 months of the year. You can see really big drops there. The same is true on the motorist side of the pedestrian fatal crashes. Again, far fewer impaired motorists involved in these crashes. They also include hit and run in these because it's reasonable to assume that a number of those would involve impaired drivers. And then broadening out to all modes when it comes to impairment and fatalities, seeing that same overall trend. One interesting thing is that, I mean, this is tied to what's been reported, which is a general reduction in alcohol and drug use across the board, especially among Gen Z members. And when we looked more detailed in this data, we found that the Gen Z fatal crashes, fatal intoxicated were down by like 70%, while other age groups were more around 30%. And sort of kind of encapsulate, you can see that impaired pedestrian deaths down by 87%. And really without those, we'd have seen an increase in pedestrian fatalities because the unimpaired fatals were still up a bit. And then also looking at those, again, those drivers, 46% drop in impaired and hit and run with crashes across the board. That concludes my safety moment. Be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mike?
I have one question.
Chad?
So your impaired pedestrian fatals are, that's the actual pedestrian who's impaired?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that correct. Cool, that's great.
Any other questions? Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you.
And next is agency reports. As Jonathan Scarf comes up, I wanted to say with the blind experience, Slade, I was able to do it 2 years ago. And as someone who's spent thousands of hours walking on highways without protection on 4-foot shoulders, I was never afraid of cars. I had trucks that you would feel the mirror touch you. I crossed OBT without my sight and I was terrified. So you should really do that experience to really put yourself in that person's shoes and seeing what you can do. And I know other agencies like Castleberry were doing that as well, where they did walking audits with a wheelchair and putting someone who was able-bodied in a wheelchair and try to get around the city. So I would just recommend that everyone experience that or look into things like that to broaden your designs. Sorry about that. So this is an opportunity for our partner agencies to speak to TAC. If any partners want to speak here, please let Rachel or Slade know and we can get you on the agenda. Jonathan Scarf, ready for your report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, TAC members. I'll be brief this morning because I'm going to be apt to hold your attention for about 25 minutes a little bit later. So, but in your latest report, you have the department's construction report, and then our next one will be coming out around the 10th. If you have any questions in that report, I'll make myself available following the meeting. At this time, if there are any general questions, I can take that. If not, Mr. Chair, that's all I have for this morning.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on, roll call.
Thank you. If members can please remember to turn their microphones on, respond with here or present, and then turn your microphone off. Barden.
Present.
Boswell.
Here.
Henry Fabrock.
Here.
Cash.
Here.
Excuse me. Casolero.
Present.
Castro.
Here.
Cox for Cologne. Laurie Cox.
Here.
Thank you. Cornelison.
Here.
Zayas for Cologne. Sorry.
Here.
Thank you. Crandell.
Here.
Delachey.
Here.
Ide.
Present.
Elliot Moore.
Present.
Falk.
Here.
Gomez.
Here.
Hardwick.
Here.
Hassan.
Here.
Mendenhall. Yeager for Nelson.
Present.
O'Keefe.
Present.
Owens.
Yes, ma'am.
Perez. Price.
Here.
Hullum.
Here.
Ramdat.
Present.
Moffat for Ramos.
Here.
Recchi.
Here.
Roll.
Here.
Sanchez.
Here.
Sanders.
Here.
Senerans.
Here.
Smith.
Present.
Story.
Here.
Stoltz. Wharton.
Here.
Malone for Williams.
Present virtually.
Thank you. Yeargain.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. We have 3 common presentations. These presentations are intended for the combined membership of TAC and TISMA and presented at the beginning of this meeting for that purpose. Members with questions can stand their nameplates on end. Please remember to turn on your mic when you have questions. The first presentation, Taylor Laurent from Metroplan Orlando with a 2050 MTP status update.
All right, good morning, everyone. Today, the status update is really serving as a preview of the entirety of the 2050 MTP. knowing that we're going to be asking you to take action on this plan in your December meeting. So without any further ado, let's just jump right in. So we began this journey back in early 2024 with collecting our background data and existing conditions, developing our goals and objectives, our shared vision for 2050, as well as looking at the drivers of change or those future trends that will influence how we go from where we are today to that shared vision 25 years from now. We've then performed several technical analyses, needs assessments, and evaluated funding scenarios throughout the past 2 years to ultimately develop the draft cost feasible plan, which has been out for your review for a little while. If you do have any questions or comments, please find me as soon as possible. But as we move forward and work towards its implementation, that adoption and implementation, as I mentioned, is scheduled for this December. But as we kind of reflect on where we've come, there were 4 key requirements for the development of the 2050 MTP, which have been met. It must meet a minimum of a 20-year planning horizon, must be updated every 5 years, be cost feasible and fiscally constrained, as well as include data-informed decision-making processes, or that performance-based planning. We have also met and incorporated all of our planning emphasis areas per those federal requirements, knowing that the MTP is both multimodal and multifaceted by design. All of these are included within the published documentation of the 2050 MTP. And then throughout the entirety of this process, public participation requirements have also been met, including providing reasonable opportunities for people to be involved, which was done both through in-person and online engagement, making information available electronically, seeking input from traditionally underserved communities, as well as using visualization techniques and plain language to facilitate meaningful conversations. And the draft 2050 MTP is comprised of 20 different chapters. If you've been on our website recently, you've seen all those documents there for you. And it generally follows the process through which we've developed the plan, beginning with that introduction, goals and objectives, existing conditions, area profile, and those drivers of change that we've mentioned. Moving into those planning emphasis areas, looking at congestion management, health, housing, environment, and freight. And then our needs assessments, looking at each of those individual modal evaluations, and then combining them together to figure out what our holistic multimodal needs are for our region. We've also included our public participation findings and how those have influenced the development of the plan since the beginning. And then the next steps. What are those prioritization processes for these projects that were identified, the financial resources that we have available to fund those, and then that funding policy and investment policy that we've developed together this year. All leading into the draft cost feasible plan, and then ultimately the conclusion and implementation chapters. So all of these chapters are up on our website right now. So if you do have any questions or comments, let me know. But there are additional information that has been published on our website with more than 20 appendices and technical reports there for any deep dives that you need to do to understand what happened to develop some of our content. But what I really want to highlight today are our draft cost feasible project lists. These are in chapter 19. It's the longest chapter of the entire MTP. Purely because of these tables. And these tables document the transportation projects that are considered cost feasible over the next 25 years, the priority order of those projects, and the unfunded transportation needs within our region. Now, these tables are the same ones that were distributed back in August, with minor formatting changes incorporated to showcase how they are in our final MTP documentation. So the cost feasible tables are organized following a fairly simple 4-step programming structure, beginning with our existing and committed projects, those that are fully funded through construction within our transportation improvement program, our 5-year budget. Then we have the projects that are in progress, so projects that have been partially programmed, they've been started, but not yet finished or not yet constructed. We want to make sure that we finish what we start. Then we have the newly cost feasible projects. These are projects that have not been started, but are high priorities and financially feasible by 2050. And then we have our unfunded needs, the projects that we don't have the financial resources available over the next 25 years to be able to begin or implement within the life of this plan, but they are documented for planning consistency purposes throughout the region. And as many of you have likely seen as you've been reviewing the draft cost feasible tables thus far, the vast majority of our funds, particularly in the first 15, 20 years of the plan, will be used to finish the projects that are in progress rather than starting new projects. And that, again, as you've seen within those draft cost feasible tables, is due to the increased costs for many of the projects that we've been seeing over the past 5 years. But with that, we'll walk through some of the high priority tables within the MTP. Starting with the state highway system, this particular list includes 51 projects that are considered cost feasible by 2050, which estimates a cost of $1 billion of investment over the next 25 years. And this includes capacity, multimodal, safety, and operational improvements on a multitude of our roadways. And this list is shown in Table 19-5 of the 2050 MTP. From there, we have our high injury network safety countermeasures cost feasible table, which includes 2 programs that are focused on safety projects within our region. The first being safety projects on our state highway system network, and the second being off of the state highway system network. And Alex's presentation about those boxed funds will focus on that second program, so I won't steal his thunder. But across those 2 programs, that will total about $146 million of investment throughout the life of this plan. And the list of the 2 programs is shown in Table 19-8 of the draft 2050 MTP. Then we have our urban corridor improvements and context-sensitive projects cost feasible list, which includes 21 complete streets projects estimated at $123 million worth of investment through the life of the plan. And once funded, these projects will be implemented by local governments through the FDOT Local Agency Program or the FDOT LAP program. And the list of these projects is shown in Table 19-9 of the 2050 MTP. And we have our TISMO cost feasible list. This comprises 27 TISMO projects and bundles that have been identified as cost feasible through the life of this plan, estimating a total of $120 million worth of investment. And these projects, again, once funded and implemented, will be implemented by the local government agencies through that LAP program at FDOT. And the list of these projects is shown in Table 19-11 of the MTP. Then we have our active transportation cost feasible list, which comprises of 1 program, the School Mobility and Hazardous Walking Conditions Program, which allows us to provide funding for FDOT Safe Routes to School projects in the event that cost overages do appear for those projects to be able to keep them moving forward, but also a handful of trail projects within our region as well. So that's what comprises those 8 items. In total, this is about $44 million worth of investment over the life of the plan. Then we have our transit list, and this cost feasible list includes $13.3 billion of investment over the life of this plan, and that includes a multitude of funding sources. The first being from our funding policy that we've developed collaboratively. MPO funding for eligible transit capital expenses totals about $6.1 million per year for the life of the plan. And the remainder of that $13.3 billion comes from federal, state, and local sources for links service and capital costs, as well as Sunrail service and capital costs. The projects associated with all of our regional transit opportunities, as well as the operations and maintenance and capital expenses, are shown in Table 19-12 of the 2050 MTP. Then we also have the toll-funded and expressway improvements list, which represents $9.1 billion worth of investment through the life of the plan. And these are investments by the Florida's Turnpike Enterprise and the Central Florida Expressway Authority. These projects are included in the 2050 MTP for planning consistency purposes, and additional information about these toll-funded projects are available on each organization's website, respectively. And there are several other tables that are included for reference for planning consistency purposes in both Chapter 19 and its appendix, Appendix Q. And that does include the interstate highway system and strategic intermodal system list, so our freight network, predominantly an interstate highway system, as well as our aviation list for our airports, and then local Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties and each of their municipalities project list as well. And again, all these are included for planning consistency purposes. So now let's switch our focus to the public engagement and agency participation that has been included in the 2050 plan's development. So we had 4 primary means of engagement throughout the development of this 2050 MTP, all of which have been incredibly valuable in shaping the results of this plan. The first being our advisory committee and board meetings, which is an example of what we're doing here today and all of these updates. It's been 78 meetings so far, not including the cycle. Then we've had our MTP Technical Workshop Forum, where we have been able to discuss key topics for the MTP at length in those 1.5-hour format sessions to deep dive the topics that we need to. And we've had 11 of those workshops throughout the entirety of this plan's development. We've also had interdisciplinary interviews where we have had detailed discussions with planning emphasis area experts to incorporate their unique insights into the development of the 2050 MTP. We've had about 10 of those interviews throughout the life of the plan. And then we've also had our public engagement events. For our in-person engagement, we've had 36 events so far. I think there's a handful still programmed or scheduled for the rest of this month. Plus our online engagement, survey results, public comments, and other items, those are still being tabulated. But as of September 26th, so a little while ago now, we had reached over 13,400 individual people throughout the development of this plan and have incorporated their feedback into this process. And this doesn't include any of our local agency coordination, which many of you were a part of, particularly with the needs assessment development. That represents another 100 or so, likely more, meetings that we've also had to incorporate everyone's feedback, thoughts, and information into this plan. And as we've incorporated that feedback from each of these different avenues, it's shaped the plan in a few very key ways. Our public feedback was used to help the selection and identification of our goals and objectives, the identification of preferred project improvement types, what we started with before we even began the needs assessment, the prioritization methodology, as well as the funding policy itself. In our technical feedback coordination, it's not only provided that information to help those first 4 items, so everything I've just said, but also the detailed needs assessments that we've performed, the technical analyses for our planning emphasis areas, and the development of the cost feasible plan. So with the publication of all of the 2050 MTP documentation, the formal public review period for the 2050 MTP has begun, and we kicked that off with our public meeting that we held on September 29th. In a break from our past formats with our public meetings, Metro Plan Orlando made this in-person public meeting an open house event, at which event attendees were able to visit various stations to learn about the key topic areas of the 2050 MTP and kind of bounce around to the areas that were most interesting to them, spend more time in one location, less in others. But we had really good feedback and a lot of good interest at that meeting, which we were excited about. Each person that came received a passport that had a map of all their stations. They knew where they'd been and where they needed to go. But on the back of that map had a comment form, so they could easily turn that in at the end of the evening with their thoughts, comments, and ideas about what was occurring within the plan. So based on the returned passports and the conversations held throughout the meeting, we learned that our most popular stations were our 2050 issues and drivers of change, so those future trends, looking at safety and Vision Zero, transit, as well as transportation systems management and operations. So at the end of the night, we did receive 5 public comments that night itself, with topics being quite varied within those items, including transit, bright line, safety, roundabouts and traffic signals, and the need for more multimodal transportation. Similar themes that we've been hearing throughout the entirety of the MTP's development. But they also told us that they enjoyed the public meeting format in which they could choose the topics they wanted to learn about and talk to people who had actually developed those portions of the plan. So following the public meeting, knowing that not everyone could come in person, we did post a video version of that public meeting content on our 2050 MTP webpage, as well as our YouTube channel. And this video covers the high points of what was covered at that MTP public meeting from each of those stations and includes images and video clips from the attendees. But while that public meeting was our kickoff for the public review period, there are a multitude of other ways to be able to get involved and provide feedback on the plan. The first being our in-person and virtual public comment opportunities here at each of our advisory committee meetings and our board meetings for the next 2 cycles, as well as email, physical letters, phone calls. We're not going to be picky. People can submit their comments however they'd like to get them to us. But again, we have that video available online for anyone who wants a little bit of an introduction before deep diving into all of our 20 chapters so they know where to start, as well as putting out a note that the public comment period will be open through November 21st, with additional comments accepted through the December board meeting on December 10th. So looking forward, our team's next steps include collecting and responding to comments that we've received during this public review period, as well as preparing for the Metro Plan Orlando Board and Advisory Committees to take action on the 2050 MTP in December of this year. Following the plan's adoption, our focus will switch from the development of the plan to its implementation. So what happens after December? So as we've talked about, not only in this forum, but in our technical workshop series, in our one-on-one conversations, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan is the foundation for how projects are federally funded within our region. The top priority projects from the MTP are shortlisted on our prioritized project list, which represents the next 10 years worth of investment within our region. Once projects are ready to move forward and funding is available, they're then programmed into our Transportation Improvement Program, that 5-year budget. So after action is taken on the 2050 MTP, next calendar year, 2026, you'll be able to see those changes in the next prioritized project list and TIP that you'll take action on mid next year. So with that, that is the conclusion of this preview of the 2050 MTP today. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Taylor. Moving on, Jonathan Scarf from FDOT to talk about the Florida Department of Transportation District 5 Tentative Work Program.
Morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. Thank you for having me this morning to give you an overview of the District 5's tentative work program. This will be covering from 2027 to 2031. So first, we'll begin with the important dates of our accelerated development cycle. So FDOT's work program is a needs-based plan that ensures the development and maintenance of Florida's transportation infrastructure plan for the upcoming 5-year period. This is an annual process reflecting changes in funding, priorities, and project progress. Each district develops their plan in partnership with regional partners based on the following state investment priorities: safety programs, system preservation and maintenance objectives such as state-maintained bridges, pavement conditions, state highways, and maintenance of those state highways, and transportation system capacity, which includes meeting statutory requirements for public transportation, such as aviation, transit, rail, ports, the strategic intermodal system, and other state highways and public transportation programs. With the upcoming legislative session commencing in January rather than March, this cycle is considered a condensed cycle, and the following key dates apply. So you can see at the beginning there, we're already in our tentative 5-year work program virtual public hearing. We held our open house on Tuesday down at the district office. And next, we'll have the submittal of the district's tentative work program to central office by November 5th. And to ensure public comments are officially included in the public record, those materials will be available online, but the comments to go on public record need to be received by November 7th. And then MPO and TPO objections are due by November 21st. In early December, district tentative work programs are reviewed by FDOT executive leadership, and then later in the month by the Florida Transportation Commission to ensure alignment with statewide priorities and needs. The plans across the state are then compiled to form the department's tentative work program, and the comprehensive plan is then submitted to the governor's office and legislature for evaluation throughout the spring. This includes extensive internal and external financial audits, and then the budget is finalized in May-June timeframe, leading to the official adoption of the 5-year work program, hopefully on July 1st, 2026. And what's always important when building the work program is look at the influencing factors. So I just wanted to kind of give you an update on what we were looking at while developing this. The work program is designed to meet the targets and needs of various program areas while being balanced. And being balanced against available resources, including projected revenues from both state and federal sources. Several key factors influence our ability to develop a balanced plan. So first, you can see there up the upper left, allocations and revenues. State funds decreased due to conservative revenue projections during the July-August Florida Revenue Estimating Conference. Overall revenues for the period ending in July FY 30/31, but we're going to end this, were reduced by $328.7 million. Reduction in the fuel tax revenues primarily due to changing consumption patterns of motor fuel and other fuels such as diesel, aviation, and off-highway fuel. Projected fuel tax rates and technological advancements in fuel efficiency were contributors to that reduction. Rental car surcharge also saw a decrease of 15.4 million. Disruptions in the car leasing market related to high interest loan rates, softening in domestic international travel, and increased use of alternatives to rental cars such as rideshare and on-site shuttles have all contributed to that reduction. And as a result of ongoing population growth in Central Florida region, District 5 did receive a slight increase in our statutory formula. And that is completely based on equal parts population and motor fuel tax collection. So you can see the slight increase there in the upper left. Some of the decisions, policies, and statutes during the legislative session. House Bill 7031 reduced revenues to the department by 780.22 million through FY 2031. The bill repealed aviation fuel tax, delayed implementation of natural gas fuel tax, and reduced the cap on documentary stamp tax proceeds to the department by 106.67 million per year. Each year, the department evaluates how well it's meeting its statutory requirements concerning preservation of the existing transportation system, adjusting funding to various areas depending on the needs. So program areas impacted this cycle included the following: highway maintenance programs, bridge replacement, and ancillary structure repair and replacement. And lastly, I want to talk to the economic variables. We continue to see fluctuation in construction costs driven by labor and materials availability and pricing. What you see here are cost trends for several of the most utilized pay item cost groups on project lettings in 2024 up to the first quarter of 2025. Earthwork and base materials have shown periodic peaks and unpredictable fluctuations in pricing, making it challenging to establish reliable cost forecasts and budget expenditures for projects. In the asphalt cost group, key materials used across all projects, especially prominent in the department's resurfacing program, has shown more stabilized cost fluctuations in the past year. Associate this stability to higher demand here in Central Florida and increased competition. We had more bids received over the last years in 2024 results. That reduced demand from other sectors, reduced demand from other sectors, freed up some of the resources in recent quarters. Contractors report more stability in binder and aggregate availability, helping to stabilize pricing. However, after the decrease you see at the end of 2024, the last 3 quarters have trended upwards. So given the revenue reductions and relative flatline forecast and expectation, the following priorities guided this cycle's programming decisions to ensure balancing and program continuity. First, maintaining safety and preservation related projects. Next, minimize project impact through strategic phasing of top regional priorities within Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties. And then, talking a little bit more to that, segmenting larger scale projects, distributing funds across fiscal years to reduce scheduling disruptions and to optimize resource allocation. Continuing preservation of ongoing executed contracts, absorb deficit by not increasing later year district support contracts. And then no new or added project phases were limited to essential program areas. Ensuring available resource support, to support the most urgent transportation priorities and system preservation efforts. So here we get the 5-year breakdown by county. So it displays the amount of funding allocated across Osceola, Orange, and Seminole counties, and within the upcoming 5-year tentative work program. And this is exclusive of I-4. I have a slide a little bit later to talk about the Moving Florida Forward initiative. But our tentative work program, this totals $2.05 billion across 3 county regions, of which we have programmed the following: $1.39 billion for Orange County, $450.7 million in Osceola County, and $213.5 million in Seminole County. This will give you the pie chart of our funding breakdown. So we have 32% multimodal with transit, rail, car ride share, and aviation. 23.9% capacity, widening new road construction and new interchanges. 18.6% road intersection improvements and safety. So specifically safety projects, lighting, urban corridor improvements, signal and intersection improvements, passing lanes and roundabouts. And then we have 11.3 in preservation, so that's resurfacing and bridge replacement maintenance. 5.5 miscellaneous, so truck parking, landscaping, rest area improvements, lighting, fixed capital outlay. 3.7 in operations, leading to signal upgrades, ATMS, ITS, autonomous vehicle research, and other operational improvements. 3.1% bike ped, and then 1.9% maintenance with MOAs and resiliency improvements. Here is our moving I-4 forward table. We all know how important the I-4 is to everybody that lives in Central Florida, the vital transportation corridor. It serves thousands of commuters daily, traveling to destinations throughout Central Florida. The close to $425 million you see here represents additional funding within Orange and Osceola counties, supporting enhancements aimed at improving mobility, reducing congestion, and increasing safety on I-4 for motorists. And, for the finer details of all the projects, we have listed there the movingi4forward.com link. That's where you can really get the breakout of the timing of each of those projects. So now we're going to move to key projects, kind of talk of some of the moving parts throughout the work program that happened in our 3-county region. As previously mentioned, our work program public hearing website offers comprehensive overview of the 5-year work program. So if you want to look in depth, you can get on there and find it by county as well, if I'm not covering it here. But here I'm going to talk about priority projects. I'm going to share information on new project phases that were added this cycle, as well as summarize some of the changes from the previous year. So starting with capacity, State Road 50 East, Orange County. This is a Metro Plan priority project. So it has a story behind it. I kind of want to give that to you. So the project was segmented to maintain construction along State Road 50 in 27 as planned. Initial segmentation was to break at Perry Lane. So this location was chosen because horizontal and vertical alignment, if the new roads was near the existing pavement, making transitions less costly. So this is the old plan. I'm going to give you the new one. The east segment, Perry Lane to Chuliota Road, was chosen to go first because it included the Chuliota Road intersection where most of the corridor crashes occurred. We heard the feedback from the public on the segmenting based on prior limits, and they expressed concerns about the 6 to 4 laning bottleneck that would occur with the original plan. So there were also utility challenges with construction for the east project, leaving a gap between the reconstructed sections of State Road 50. This would also be a gap in the utility relocations in Orange County utilities. They planned upgrades for their facilities along the corridor. So after we looked at that and we did our segmentation and our associated collaboration and reconsidering the segment limits and building the project from west to east posed less of a challenges and yielded greater efficiency. So the new segments that I'm going to discuss would initiate construction as originally planned in FY27. The first being 456096-1. See it on the left there. Avalon Park Boulevard to Econ River Bridge. That's $30 million in fiscal year 27. And the next segment, 456096-2, Econ River Bridge to Chuliota Road, $55 million in FY29. Okay, so now moving to Osceola County. In the left panel, you can see 2 intersection improvements for the project that are planned on US 192. And that's at Old Town. It's a safety project, improving pedestrian movements at the 192 and Old Town intersection. And moving down, you'll see 457601-1 at Celebration Avenue. There's ancillary structure replacement programming, Tismo mast arms rebuild, and it's related to program planning workshop, or it was related to a program planning workshop needs to maintain the integrity and operability and the safety of the transportation systems components. And both follow their schedule with design starting in FY27 and construction in 29. In the right panel, you have congestion relief at John Young Parkway at Pleasant Hill. This is another Metro Plan priority, another project with somewhat of a story to it. Planned improvements were developed through a coalition effort with partners. The project aims to relieve congestion, improve access, extend bicycle and pedestrian facilities, enhance aesthetics, and add landscaping within the project area. The project goes beyond intersection improvements and enhancing capacity at one of our most congested crossroads in the region. Securing full funding or full project funding within a single fiscal year was a significant hurdle. And this large-scale improvement project requires multi-year phased funding approach. So the project improvements have been segmented into two manageable segments and will be constructed in stages. 418403-7, that's the original FM number, and it will remain to complete right-of-way activities for the overall project limits. Two new FM numbers were created for the construction of the segments that are being considered as design bid delivery methods. Sorry, that's a lengthy one. Design bid build delivery methods. 418403-8, that's phase 1, construction in 28. The Quadrant Road realignment of Oaks Boulevard, stormwater management ponds, northbound John Young Parkway side slope improvements, and the wall along the existing canal. Southbound John Young Parkway lane improvements are also included. And then phase 2, the -9, that construction is taking place in fiscal year 30. Remaining proposed improvements, including northbound John Young Parkway and to include the overpass lane. So continuing, I will talk a little outside the 3-county region during truck parking, but just for information purposes. So we're all aware that freight traffic is an essential part of the state's growth, and I-4 is the most critical corridor for truck parking needs. This investment aims to improve regional freight parking demand with the I-4 corridor in the metropolitan areas of Osceola, Orange, and Seminole counties to include Volusia counties. And this addresses safety and mobility, enhancing the state's supply chain, driver productivity, and reducing costs for business and consumers. Construction of the truck parking facilities within our region promotes efficient movement of people and goods throughout Florida, supporting the state's economic competitiveness. So we have the following projects programmed in the upcoming work program cycle. Osceola truck parking will commence construction and railroad utilities in fiscal year 26/27, with right-of-way activities in fiscal year 26/27 and carrying over into 28. And you can see the total costs presented on the slide. The Orange County facility will have design in FY 26/27 and environmental activities in 28/29. This is in continuation of ongoing efforts already programmed in Seminole and Volusia counties. So they have an eastbound and westbound that's going in up in Volusia. Those lettings occurred this year as well, and that was for a total of $221.2 million of parking facility construction cost. If you weren't aware, I'm going to let you know Florida was awarded just north of $180 million infra grant in spring of 2024. Execution of the grant occurred in July of 2025, and we did coordinate with the MPO here to make sure that everything was in line with planning for planning purposes as we turn that fiscal year. So in Seminole County, for truck parking, you'll have $29.5 million of construction letting in April of 26. In the Volusia site, the eastbound Volusia site was let in April of 26 as well, or will be let in 26. And then the westbound Volusia site will be in May of 26. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of go through our counties by area, some of the resurfacing projects. I'll list them up front, what's going in, and then what was added during this programming cycle. So each year pavement assessment is carried out, much like we heard of the great Tismo brief this morning, which I like. I'll have to bring that back home. But it's the largest program in our work program. Okay, so here Orange County, we have 13 resurfacing projects programmed over the next 3 years, totaling more than 13 million. I'm sorry, 13 projects, 83 million. That's an important number to get correct. Okay, so some of the new projects moving forward in this programming cycle, you have State Road 423 from Trans World Drive to State Road 500. That is a pavement-only resurfacing. Design in 27, construction 29. State Road 50 from Bennett Road to State Road 417. So resurfacing, again, design 27, construction 29. And then US 441 from Osceola County line to north of Coroni Drive. Resurfacing construction in 28/29, and the associated costs are there on the slide for you. And to Osceola County, we have 6 resurfacing projects, totaling just north of almost 85 million there. And this includes 3 projects programmed this cycle. State Road 60 from east of Kissimmee River Bridge to Blankley Bay Slough. That's a pavement-only resurfacing. Again, design 27, construction 29. State Road 60 from West Peavine Road to west of Florida's Turnpike, pavement only resurfacing, design 27, construction 29. And then US 192 from Nova Avenue to Hibiscus Road, and that's a pavement only, design 27, construction 29. Within Seminole, here are your totals for the resurfacing that are in the work program. And then we did also program this project as well. US 17 from Normandy Road to Raven Avenue, and that's design in 27 and construction in 29. Okay, continuing on with some of the other types and flavors. Traffic operations improvements that were added this cycle. On the left panel, we have the Orange County Agency Project. That's a Garland Avenue bundle. You have a B27 and the Huey Avenue bundle, B26. That's operational and safety improvements. And they may include elements such as smart signals, curb extensions, pickup or drop-off zones, upgraded signal markings, and safer pedestrian and bicycle connections to downtown. In the right panel, we have mast arm rebuilds at several locations within Orange County, ensuring continuing adequacy and operational integrity of traffic signal structures at these 3 intersections. All right, multimodal corridor improvements along several Seminole County roadways. Local agency projects enhance multimodal mode connectivity and accessibility for all roadway modes, including pedestrian safety, and create a safe and supportive environment for walking and biking. This group's familiar with that. Here we have the construction phases programmed for multimodal improvements along the limits identified for Warren Avenue for FY30 construction, Mitchell Hammock FY31 construction, and the North Street Phase 2 FY30 construction. Okay, now kind of given what I've outlined before, occasionally it becomes necessary to defer projects from its original program fiscal year due to updated project requirements, scheduling adjustments, or shifting priorities. So I'm going to go down our deferred projects and give you a little background of the why. So in the top left, Central Florida Rail Corridor Bridge Replacement over 1792 in Maitland. Construction was deferred from 26-27 to 28-29, and that was to allow for acquisition of right-of-way via the funding added in fiscal year 26-27. Bottom left, Osceola County Central Avenue from Dakin Avenue at Church Street to West Donegan Avenue. Osceola County requested a right-of-way acquisition to be deferred 2 years on this corridor improvement project, and that was from FY 28 to 30. Top right in Seminole County, capital grant deferred from 26-27 to 27-28 based on coordination with the Aviation Authority. And bottom right, parking lot resurfacing the rest area with Seminole County was deferred from 28 to 30 due to reprioritization of projects. Okay, moving to deleted projects. Throughout the year, like deferrals, changes may occur that result in deletion of a previously programmed or the phases of a project. These adjustments are needed to ensure transparency and efficiency within the work program. Often they are administrative in nature, updating previously programming for updated delivery needs, which is the bulk of what you see here. So on the left side, the top two on the left projects were the efforts, where the efforts remain in the upcoming work program. However, the work was reassigned to district CSC contracts as opposed to standalone agency procurements, requiring deletion of the previous phases. So kind of a handoff of responsibility. Bottom left is the previous project limit for State Road 50 East project, where the project limits have been changed. We discussed that at the front end of the brief, and the utilities is no longer needed within the new segment of the project. And in our right panel, within Osceola County, several project phases were deleted due to work being accomplished by the agency and or under other projects due to overlap of project limits. So thank you for your time. In closing, I would like to provide Kathy Alexander Corbin. She's our program management administrator. Her contact info is there. And if you're not familiar with the work program public hearing, you can get on there and search everything by county, and that'll be open for comment until November 7th. Mr. Chair, pending questions, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, and I assume some people probably will as well. If you could look into, I was trying to find the FPID number, but I couldn't. There was a project in Seminole that was supposed to be a resurfacing for 434 from 436 to Montgomery, I believe. And I thought it was in 28, 29, and I didn't see it on a deferred list, so I wasn't sure if you could just.
So you, if it wasn't deferred, it might still be in.
Okay.
I didn't know if you had the opportunity to check yet, but I can look in.
If you could, I
It,
haven't checked yet.
434 resurfacing?
Yeah, from 436 to Montgomery, I believe, is where the limits were.
Okay, I'll take a look and get back to you.
Thank you. And I know this is outside of your control, and the committee has probably heard me say it many times. But you said with the prioritization, safety is number one.
Mhm.
I don't feel that, or at least my perception is that is not what I'm seeing, because we have 4 out of 5 state projects throughout my city and the cities right next to me, that all of them have gone from resurfacing to pop. So and I know it's because we have a statutory requirement to maintain X amount of roads. I think that this group, Metro Plan, maybe even DOT, we need to go to Tallahassee and try to get that changed, because we're seeing that we're just resurfacing roads and all of these safety improvements that we're trying to get are not really coming on board. The locals are being asked to provide all of those safety improvements, where we're struggling right now to just maintain our own infrastructure. We don't have millions of dollars to maintain the safety infrastructure on the state roads. So I don't know how we do it, but I think we really need to figure out a way, because this has been years that we've been talking about trying to maintain our infrastructure, but also to do safety. And we're saying safety is number one, but when the pedal meets the road or the rubber meets the road, I don't think we're doing it. So just food
No,
for thought.
Thank you for the comments. And thank you for the comments.
Is there any other questions? No? Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
I think
Oh, I'm sorry.
Arturo.
Arturo, did you have one?
Oh, Turnpike's gonna be following me
Oh,
here
yeah,
in
okay.
a second.
Next presentation. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
And now we will hear from Katiana Kavaklis from Florida's Turnpike Enterprise to talk about the Turnpike's tentative work program. Did I pronounce that right? Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. Before we start, I'd actually like to introduce a new team member, Lauren Hughes. He will be your representative for Metro Plan. Florida's Turnpike Enterprise does coordinate with 13 MPOs. And so Lauren will probably have about 6 or 7. So you will see him a lot more often than you see me. Okay. Right. Well, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to represent Turnpike's tentative work program for fiscal year 2027 through fiscal year 2031. Orange and Osceola counties in the Turnpike, we are proposing $277 million in major projects. Florida's Turnpike Enterprise consists of 515 miles of limited access facility, which provides Florida residents and visitors with a safe, efficient, and affordable means of travel. We are located in all 7 districts, and we coordinate with 21 counties out of the 67 in the state of Florida. And just in the Metro Plan area, we have 132 miles of our facility. This next slide is about the investment we're making into our communities, or your toll dollars at work. The first project we'd like to showcase is the new interchange at Sand Lake Road. It provides access to residents, retails, and new visitors, and also improves traffic operations. The project started on March 2024 and will be completed by the fall of 2028, and that's a $115 million investment. The second project we'd like to showcase is the new interchange at Nolte Road, which is providing new access to a growing area in Osceola County and will improve the traffic flow for our residents and commuters. That project was started October 2021 and will be completed in the summer of 2030, and that's a $193 million investment. This next slide is our handout overview. It's a summary of our projects. Page 1 lists the major construction projects underway or recently completed. The page 9 is provides projects that are funded for construction in the work program. And page 14 lists those projects without construction funds, but allocated different phases, such as PD&E, design, and right-of-way. These next two slides are projects that are funded for construction, and we just want to showcase a few of them. The first one is the Parton Settlement Road to Osceola Parkway, or milepost 243.5 to 249. Construction is funded in 2027. It's $4.2 million. The second is Kissimmee St. Cloud US 192-441 to Partisan Settlement, or milepost 242 to 243.5. And as you can see, we have various phases funded from environmental right-of-way to construction in 2028, 2029, and that's a $180 million investment. These next three also investments from design to construction. The first one is our Turkey Lake Plaza. I heard truck parking earlier, so we are making modifications to our truck parking. The second is the Beach Line West, State Road 528 to US 1792-441. As you can see, various phases are funded, as well as construction in 2028, $40.3 million. And then construction, our new interchange at Taft Vineland, and also widening Taft Vineland Road from US 1792-441 to Oak Crossing Road, right-of-way and construction funded for $108 million. The next, well, actually, before I jump to the next two, you may have noticed I didn't mention construction funding for Seminole County, and we didn't want to, neglect our partners in Seminole County. We currently have $300 million in construction projects to widen State Road 417 from 4 lanes to 8 lanes between Alamo Avenue and State Road 434. We are also in design to widen State Road 417 from State Road 434 to County Road 427, and we will be working on adding that construction into the future work program. Now I'm going to continue with the various other phases. PD&E, design, and right-of-way, these are the projects that are currently planned in our work program. The first three are part of our initiative, the Turnpike Widening Initiatives. And as you can see, we have various funds in PD&E right-of-way. Those are the first three. And then we have widenings from Beltway, the Western Beltway, State Road 429 from US 192 to north of Disney World. That's in PD&E in 2027. Another widening project, which would be widening the Western Beltway from State Road 429 north of the Disney World to Hogsworth Road to Sandell Road. And I do apologize, since we're in the way of like butchering a little bit of the words. I do apologize to the locals if I did butcher that one. We have preliminary engineering funded and right-of-way in 2027, 2028. And our final two for widening is I-4 to west of State Road 532 to east of Osceola Parkway. Right-of-way is funded in fiscal years 2027, 28 at $11.5 million. And then the widening of the Southern Connector extension, State Road 417 from I-4 to Osceola Parkway, preliminary engineering 2031 at $2 million. And with that, I close with our safety tip. It's National Teen Driving Safety Week. National Teen Driving Safety Week is dedicated to addressing the high rates of car crashes among our teen drivers, which leads to the cause of deaths for their group. This week aims to educate teens, parents, and communities about safe driving behavior and the risk associated with teens driving, such as distracting driving, speeding, and driving under the influence and drugs. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will now move on to public comments on action items. We will now hear public comments. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad and we'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
No hands raised online.
Do we have any members of the public attending in person that wish to make a public comment?
No comments received.
Are there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting?
None were received.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to our action items. We have 4 action items today. The first is the August 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes. Full meeting minutes are included in section 2 of the agenda packets. I will call for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Move to approve, Shad Smith.
Shad motioned and Bill seconded. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Seeing none opposed, the motion passed. Moving on to the second item, amendments to the 2026-2030 TIP. Jason Sartorio can tell us more on that, and there is more information in section 3 of your agenda packets. Jason.
Morning, Chairman and committee members. This morning I have 12 TIP amendments for you. And as mentioned, additional information is located in section 2 of your agendas. The first 6 amendments are for new projects that are receiving state legislative appropriations. All these projects are listed on the screen. Each project has an EM26 fund and local funds, which are being programmed for construction in fiscal year 2026. The next 5 amendments are for new railroad crossing projects. These projects are eligible for federal funding, so they must be included into the TIP in order for that funding to be authorized. The 5 projects are listed on the screen, and each of the 5 is receiving RHH funds for railroad utilities phase in fiscal year 2026. And the last amendment is for an existing Links 5310 project. The amendment is adding FTA funding and local funds for operations in fiscal year 2026. And as I mentioned, you have some additional information located in section 2 of your agendas. With that being said, unless there are any questions, we are asking for your recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Any questions for Jason?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. No opposed, the motion passed. Thank you, Jason. Now moving on to the draft 2026 Metro Plan Orlando Committee meeting calendar. Slade Downs can tell us more about that, and there's more information in section 4 of your agenda packets. Slade.
All right, thank you. So up on the screens and in your agenda packets, you'll find a copy of the proposed 2026 committee meeting calendar. TAC and TISMO are shaded in red up on the screen. For the purposes of TAC and TISMO, we'll continue to meet twice per quarter on the 4th Friday of the month, with exceptions for holidays, which are shaded in gray on that calendar. And just want everyone take a quick look if you know of any concrete conflicts with these dates. Just give us a heads up. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chair to ask for a motion. Thanks.
Metro Plan Orlando Committee meeting calendar 2026.
Shad Smith, I move to approve the calendar.
And a second?
Second, Ramon Centerins.
And any discussion on the calendar or the motion, excuse me? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. No opposed, the motion passed. Thank you, Slade. And on our final item is the appointment of an officer selection subcommittee to elect the TAC chair and vice chair for 2026. Slade, can you tell us more about that?
All right, so it is that time again for TAC. We're forming a subcommittee to select the 2026 TAC leadership. We need at least 3 subcommittee members, 1 from each county. And keep in mind, you don't have to be from the county. You could be from a city, town, or transportation partner as well. So the subcommittee will meet virtually sometime before our next TAC meeting to basically form a slate of vice chair and chair for TAC for 2026, and then that will be voted on at the next TAC meeting in December. So can open the floor to nominations and this is a nomination for the subcommittee, not for chair or vice chair for next year. You can also nominate yourself.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Humberto Castillero for Orange County.
Umberto, do you accept? Okay. Need two more.
Bless you.
I would like to nominate Bill Wharton.
He's in Orange County.
Oh, yeah, well, I tried. All right, so we need an Osceola and a Seminole.
Can I volunteer Anthony Nelson? I'm sitting in for him today.
Sure.
Sure. I will accept the nomination for Tony to be on the subcommittee.
Voluntold. Voluntold.
All right, so Seminole.
I'm gonna still this one.
I'd like to nominate Arturo as
Okay, and Arturo. Okay, so I will call for a motion to appoint Arturo, Umberto, and Tony as members of the Officer Selection Subcommittee. Do I hear a motion? Bill and Chad, second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. None opposed, the motion passes.
And if Umberto and Arturo, if I could grab you after the meeting, just so we can set up a date that works for your calendars. Thanks.
And thank you all for volunteering, and thank you, Tony. Now we'll move on to our TAC only presentation. Alex Strager from Metro Plan Orlando will lead us with a discussion on the 2050 MTP Box Fund application process. Alex, take it away.
Great, kind of a mouthful, but before I jump into the presentation, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to answer one of the questions that you had relating to the resurfacing project on 434 from 436 to Montgomery/Wekiva Springs Road. That actually got moved from last year to design in 28, construction in 30. So DOT is going to be in the process of reaching out to all impacted jurisdictions over here pretty soon. So you should be hearing in Seminole County as well, should be hearing from the DOT resurfacing group to talk about that particular one soon.
Perfect, because yeah, we have two projects coming in right there, and I didn't want to
Absolutely
intermingle.
So be on the lookout, and I'll probably notice most of everyone else as well. There's a lot of resurfacing going to be happening in 28 and 30. So DOT will be reaching out to you and having those discussions. So you can certainly air that feedback as it relates to safety and in your desire to incorporate safety and other goes with improvements into those projects. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into the discussion. I know I'm the last thing between you and lunch today, and I know you've had a lot of presentations and discussion today. So with that, and Taylor gave me a little bit of a preface, and as you've heard in prior discussions in the funding policy that this advisory committee had devised and our board has come to consensus on, we do have what we're calling boxed funds, and these are funding set-asides that are set aside in the 2050 MTP. The majority of the projects and funding in the MTP is specifically identified on a particular project within limits. But federal law also allows us to set aside funds for programs that can be implemented in the near term through our prioritized project list. We've done this in the past with our sidewalk gaps instead of our retiming program as examples to that. So these are opportunities for us to work through and identify near-term projects that can be implemented in the next 5th year of the tentative work program. So you just heard about 31. What I'm going to be talking about today will help us set us up for fiscal 32 and hopefully before that as well. So there are 3 boxed funds within the 2050 MTP. Taylor mentioned the Safe Routes to School Mobility Program. We use that as a supplement to cover cost shortfalls as it relates to Safe Routes projects. So that's more of a contingency box as it relates to the funding and planning consistency. We have our Safety Goes With projects beginning in fiscal 31. So we'll be talking about that number 2 item later or mid next year after we get through next year's resurfacing candidate list. But today, and really the focus of our discussion and some of our immediate critical path next steps is going to be what we're calling the off-state highway system high injury network countermeasure projects. There's about $3.5 million a year through the life of the plan identified for projects to be implemented on the high injury network through the local agency program, through the LAP program. So again, these are federal funds, so all rules and in terms apply. So keep that in mind as we're going through today's discussion. But I will outline that. Ms. Rachel Frederick did send out a document to you guys, I believe, on Monday, which is a draft guidelines document. I'm going to be walking through that today, taking any questions, and I have a couple questions for you along the way as well. But again, this program is intended to begin in fiscal 31, with us doing a call for projects for fiscal 32 of the next tentative work program. And again, the focus of our discussion is that local agency program, high injury network safety countermeasures, and it's your means of implementing your local county and municipal safety Vision Zero safety action plan. So this is us identifying funds to implement the multitude of projects that were identified over the past 18 months as part of your municipal action planning. So with that, as we look at terms, how things work, again, this is going through FDOT's local agency program. Many of you have familiarity with that. It's not easy, but it's the only way to access federal funds as it relates to off-system projects. So all participants, applicants will have to comply with the local agency program guidelines. And you have to either be certified, but DOT's, most of the lab certifications are project-based. So you just have to be ready and geared up to be lab certified by that date certain. As it relates to project eligibility, we've identified, and you identified in each of your county and city action plans, a variety of safety projects off the state highway system. So those projects are identified and encapsulated in Appendix I of our long range or 2050 MTP. So that's going to be the long list of opportunities. Important to note, projects have to be in our urbanized area and have to be on functionally classified roads, minor collector or greater. Those are hard and fast rules as it relates to the expenditure of our urban area funds. So I can't help you with that one, but those are parameters for the types of safety projects that we'll be implementing. So nothing on local roads, unfortunately, for this particular one, but can certainly help on those collector facilities and safety improvements thereof. We're looking at design and construction focused projects, at least as it's identified in the guidelines and the limitation of funds that we have per year. We're trying to keep it design and construction focused, with any environmental clearance that's required and any right-of-way needed will be at the requirement of our local government partners. So as we're thinking through this and as you're devising candidate projects and thinking about which ones you want to apply for, keep in mind those right-of-way or other environmental challenges, as those costs will have to be borne by local agencies. And beyond that, it has to be consistent with your comprehensive plan, not identified explicitly, but at least consistent with your comprehensive plan. But most importantly, it needs to be in your adopted Vision Zero safety action plans, which I know each of you now have. So that should satisfy that particular requirement. And again, we've ingrained all of those in our 2050 needs list. And that documents within those guidelines as well. So a little bit about the application requirement. We want to make this as easy as possible for you guys. So as I mentioned before, projects must be identified in our safety need within our urban area boundary on a functionally classified facility. And of course, and I keep repeating myself about the local agency program, these funds will be implemented and administered through that program. So do keep that in mind as you're considering advancing
project applications. Again, we're trying to make the application as simple as possible. We are developing an Esri Survey 123 application, so you should be able to type everything in there, upload all your documents through a relatively seamless and efficient portal. More to come on that, but the focus of the application is about the jurisdiction and then filling out some information about the project specifically. I'm going to walk you through each of those preliminary application requirements. So we want to know who the project sponsor is, whether you're a county, city, town, or other eligible entity, who that sponsor contact is, who do we call if we have questions, who do we call when it's go time. So we'll need your contact information there. As I mentioned when I led off the presentation, the focus of this call for projects that's going to take place early next year is going to be exclusively on LAP implemented non-state highway system projects. Again, we'll be taking up other call for project categories on the state highway system at a later date, but our focus for this first call for projects is going to be off state highway system projects. To from the typical stuff that's submitted within an application, the online map or the map that's going to be on the project application portal will allow you to draw those draw the limits of that so we can compile and report everything that's needed. We'll need that MTP ID. So again, we took all of your safety needs and brought those into the 2050 MTP. So within that appendix, you'll see all the eligible projects, the description and an estimated cost, which should help in preparing these applications. Identify that functional classification. We have a map on our website that identifies the updated functional classification, but if you have any questions about that, we can certainly help you there. Again, the work description, the project description is already incorporated within the MTP documentation, but if there's any variation, change, or a different vision for the project, you can certainly identify that within the project description and work type. Our intent of this is to take these applications, go with the selected projects, and it was going to flow right into LAP intake process. So a lot of the questions that we're asking you here are the similar questions that you're going to be asked by FDOT couple months later. So we're trying to answer a lot of those questions in advance, including that purpose and need statement. That's a requirement for all federalized projects. Other steps, estimated costs. Again, these are things that are required as it relates to the intake applications. So if there is a PD&E, we want to know, or any other environmental design or clearance required. That's again going to be borne by the local agency, but we do want a cost estimate so we can see the full expense for these particular safety projects. Design, right-of-way, again, those right-of-way costs will be borne by local agencies. And please, 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 please make sure that you're including both a construction and a CEI construction engineering inspection, not together, but as two separate line items. Those are often joined, and then we have to kind of decipher what's what. So please make sure you include those as one item, individual items. If you're going to bring money to the table, please identify that within the application, not required as noted in the guidelines. But again, if you are bringing cash to the table or in kind to the table, please be sure that contribution is noted and delineated within the application. As I mentioned before, this must be consistent with your local comprehensive plans. So we'll point to references that can point us to the chapter of your currently adopted comprehensive plans. And local agency preference. So as noted in the guidelines, we are asking that each jurisdiction is eligible to submit up to 3 applications or 3 candidate projects through this application cycle. And if you do submit more than 1 application, as noted in the guidelines, we are asking for your preference 1, 2, and 3. And as I talk about criteria and how we're evaluating projects, that will be front and center as it relates to implementing these. We want to make sure that we conduct a comparative analysis, but we also want to make sure we're implementing the greatest need for the, more of the subjective criteria that goes into project implementation. We also want you to identify any issues that may impact the project delivery. Again, right-of-way, public controversy, utility, and other things that you know about within your jurisdiction. We want to make sure those are noted and encapsulated in the application to make sure that we can implement those projects. As it relates to the relationship to our 2050 goals, we have our safety and security goal, so you can tie your application to that. But we also want to make sure you tell the project story, making sure that, if it's a pedestrian, if the segment in question has high rates of pedestrian fatality, how does this particular project solve that safety need? So we're asking for a narrative there, and that will help you in a later step as the technical advisory committee or a working group help sort through projects and make and help make the case for your individual applications. And then there's a variety of upload options. Again, this is going to be an online application, so you can drag and drop PDFs and other files. So if you want to provide us or your peers on the technical advisory committee additional information to make the case for your projects, that will be available to you there as well. There are a handful of acknowledgements that we want to make sure you're clear of. So those are identified in the guidelines. So we are asking for you to approve that. And because this is an online application, there will be some type of catch-up statement there just to make sure we don't get too much spam as this goes public here early in January. So as it relates to evaluation and prioritization, we're going to take a little bit different approach than we have over the past few years, as we've talked about in prior prioritized lists, and as we talked about within the 2050 MTP, the majority of the projects have been, the needs assessment took place. We all agreed to a prioritization method pending the project categories, and then we went with that data-informed ranking. What we're going to do here is going to be a little bit different. We want to make sure, again, that we're implementing the projects and they're the ones that you need and need most within a timely manner. So we are going to use, comparative evaluation criteria that I'll talk about in a second, but that's not going to be the end all. There will be an opportunity for local governments to coordinate and make sure that we're implementing the most impactful, needed, and timely projects. So we're going to be leaning back into the technical advisory committee or a designated working group, which I'll talk about in a few minutes to sort through that process. But our intent is then to bring that back to the technical advisory committee in advance of your next prioritized project list. So, before next May, June, we'll come together and incorporate these into our next prioritized project list so they can then be considered for programming in fiscal 32. As it relates to comparative evaluation criteria, we're trying to keep it simple, and this is not on you to conduct. My team will be handling this aspect of it. We'll be asking for those application inputs as noted on my prior slides, and once we receive those applications, we'll do the analysis, the system-wide analysis, looking at crash rate, serious and injury crash rate, bike and pedestrian crashes, high injury network designation, and as I mentioned before, local agency preference. The first three are our federal performance measures, so we're trying to align this evaluation and prioritization process directly with required federal performance management and target setting. So we're aligning our off-system requirements with our holistic, federal safety targets. But again, we want to make sure you're on a high injury network, and if you're on multiple high injury networks, even better. And as I mentioned before, local agency preference. We're not going to be weighting these, as I meant. This is going to be information for our technical advisory committee and or a working group's consideration as you deliberate, convene, and decide which projects will be next. So again, it's not going to be prescriptive. We want to give some of the reins back to our advisory committees, especially as it relates to safety projects. We don't want to pick the next 25 years worth of safety projects. We knew things change. So this project should be agile and allow you to, again, make sure that these safety projects are implemented timely and where they're most impactful. So within the guidelines, before I jump to schedule, there is a draft outline of how we will conduct that analysis. It's very similar to how we've done our prioritization in the past. We do a systems level analysis of all segments within the urbanized area, use some statistical analysis and natural breaks or the Jenks method to bin the different categories, high, medium, and low. So my team will be handling that and delivering a report back to the technical advisory committee for y'all's consideration as you deliberate to pick projects in the future. So as it relates to the call for projects and as we get into next steps, as I mentioned a couple times now, we plan on either the technical advisory committee or a designated working group of this committee to come together to finalize the approach, make sure that we have consensus around the application requirements and the means in which we will sort and pick projects. Once that's decided, we'll open up a call for projects. We'll host, as noted in the guidelines, we'll also do an informational webinar, informational public meeting in advance of the call early in 2026 to talk a little bit more what I'm talking about today, but also to make sure everyone's clear, kind of like the webinars the federal government does before they do the NOFAs. So making sure you can ask your tough questions before the call for projects goes live. We'll then I'll ask all of our partner agencies to submit all of your candidate projects by the end of January. And then in February, my team will do the necessary comparative analysis, reporting, summing up of all the projects and information that we receive to then bring back that information late February, early March to the technical advisory committee or a working group to convene, to sort that out. How do you want to move forward? Again, we're giving you the reins on how to proceed with this particular program. After that group convenes, decides what's next, what's first as it relates to safety improvement projects on the high injury network, we'll bring this back to TAC for a blessing. And then with that, it will be incorporated into our draft prioritized project list for calendar year 26, which will then go through our typical advisory committee preview and adoption processes in the summer of next year, ultimately approved by our board at their July meeting, as they always do, along with the transportation improvement program. And then we submit a funding plan to DOT in the August timeframe. Also worth noting here, because we're trying to get these projects kind of hot off the press right into the work program, right after the TAC gives it the blessing and it starts going through our prioritized project list. That's also around the same time, May, June, July is when FDOT does their local agency program intake applications. Many of you are familiar with that experience. So we're going to be working to try to answer a lot of those questions in advance with you. So when DOT calls and says it's time to go, you have majority of those answers ready, and it should make things at least duplicative as possible. So that's the process. This is just that flow chart in a different format. Key dates, again, these key dates are also listed in those draft guidelines. So I won't read them aloud here again. But the question of the day, kind of question du jour, this is not an action item, a consensus item, and we'll move forward accordingly. How does the committee, if you have any questions, I'll certainly take those now. But as kind of the real question of the day is how the technical advisory committee wants to move forward. We can leverage the whole committee. We can put agenda items, presentation and discussion, long form discussion on your technical advisory committee agendas. Or what I would recommend is the group take volunteers, again, with a good jurisdictional representation to form a working group to tackle this, who can then report back to the technical advisory committee, and we can go from there. So again, I'll answer any questions that you may have off the bat, but this is really kind of my question for you today. And with this information, we'll be able to move forward accordingly and kind of get things rolling more formally. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alex. I'll open it up. Arturo?
Did you mention what's the limited amount for each application?
So there's about $3.5 million a year identified within the 2050 MTP, beginning in 31 through the life of the plan, based on us trying to do design and construction to kind of throttle this program. We're looking at $3 million max construction projects. And then that's saving about $500,000, give or take, a year to initiate the design requirements for the safety project. So again, we're going to be throttling the program. The first year is going to be probably design only. But again, as the program evolves year to year, we plan on doing construction and design in each year to keep things rolling.
Laura?
On that, do you have an anticipated amount of awards through this program per year?
It's really going to be contingent on funding the types of projects. So again, that's what we want. We want everyone to kind of pick their best. We'll sort through those as a group, rank them, and I think that's where we can kind of get into the programming aspect of it. If we can do as much as we can within the fiscal constraints of the budget and the monies that we have available to us.
I have a few more. Will a preliminary high injury network be acceptable for that for Orlando? We are in between adopting a new high injury network. We'll have a preliminary around this time, but it won't be adopted by our council until the full plan.
I believe we have all of the safety projects identified within the 2050 MTP, including those from the city of Orlando, from our safety needs assessment exercise. So we're really leaning on that subset of projects.
I mean, for the evaluation criteria, if it's on a high injury network, would it be our 2021 because that one is finalized, or could we use our preliminary that will be out early next year?
I'll yield to the group, and I think that kind of goes to this kind of next step question. I don't want to kind of technocrat my way through this presentation. We're open to that. It's really the will of the group. I think what's most important is within the 2050 MTP, that Appendix I has a very long list of safety improvement projects. So that's where we're asking you to kind of draw from as it relates to kind of picking your top three within each jurisdiction. The high injury network criteria, as I mentioned, that's going to be more for consideration. So whether it's updated or not, it's not going to be kind of a de facto, if you're not on that high injury network, you don't get points. It's more of a way to elevate projects that might be on a local and a county and a regional high injury network. But I'll yield that back to the group at the appropriate time to sort through that particular one.
Okay, and then similarly, maybe this question is more for a potential working group regarding the evaluation scoring criteria, or do you want that feedback now?
If you have the feedback, we're here and we can hear it as a group. But again, we are going to rely on whether it's a working group or the TAC as a whole to identify that comparative analysis approach. My only food for thought is the turnaround time my team's going to have in a month to kind of sort through 30 to 50 applications likely, just to make sure that it's, not data restrictive or rigor.
So I'll save one of those for the potential group, but the big one being the having the high injury network on there feels a little redundant to the crash rating scoring criteria as well. And I'd be interested if folks would consider something more along the lines of a rating regarding transportation disadvantaged or proximity to frequently used transit or schools, some type of analog there instead of the redundancy with the crash rate and high injury networks.
Understood. And again, I would yield that back to the committee.
Okay, that's all then.
Thanks.
I would agree with you, Laura, because one of the things I really liked how you said that you weren't going to weight those because of the 3 counties, Seminole County's numbers are a lot lower. And if we were weighting it just on crash rate, then we're at the counties at the bottom compared to the others.
If I could also note, the other factors, and this is kind of described within the guidelines. So, we're going to have comparative criteria just so we could be performance-based to align with federal requirements. But we're also going to put it back to the group to make sure that we're balancing fair share and other considerations that I know that are on the top of each of your minds as we get into prioritization of projects. So there will be other factors that you'll be able to consider and deliberate on as we get into those meetings later in the year.
Okay, so to go for option A or B, just to give my opinion. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I did have a question. In the guidelines, Alex, it mentions that the sponsor would bear unforeseen cost increases. And so I guess that means that there's not like a set aside for any potential shortfalls or things like that. I know you said for this cycle or this particular one that there wouldn't be local match requirements, but I just wanted to confirm that what we read in the guidelines was.
So that's our intent.
Okay.
As we move forward in the outer years of the plan, our funding reserves have become a lot more limited, and the types of shortfalls that you experience and that we see are much greater. So I think what's important, and this is also a LAP application or LAP agreement requirement, that the local government will bear all shortfalls greater than what is programmed. So we just want to make sure that the locals acknowledge that, one, to put good cost estimates together, use the proper inflation or year of expenditure factors, but also an acknowledgement that, the state or metro plan's not going to always be able to come in and save the day. And we've seen so many deferrals and deletions in some cases over the past 3 to 5 years, where we just want to make sure that there's an ownership. And because we're allowing you to kind of pick your future and move through it in that fashion, we just want to make sure that locals will be able to cover that. If we have it, we're always here to help. But as we get into the latter years of the plan, and I can tell you the next couple of years if you look at our funding reserves within the tentative work program, they are very light.
So we're not always gonna be able to be there to help with multi-million-dollar shortfalls that we've seen over the past couple of years, so.
Yeah, and I do have a question as well, Mr. Chairman. Alex, regarding the implementation of these projects, is there a time limit? So we are talking perhaps because of the volatility of construction costs and whatnot, that the municipalities are gonna be taking the hit for any unforeseen additional costs, but also do we need to complete these projects within an estimated timeline?
So let me break that out into two pieces. So this is gonna be a call for projects for fiscal 32, and that will be our first what we'll be recommending to DOT for programming in that year. As we update our prioritized project list every year, we'll be kind of coming back and revisiting costs just to kind of make sure, similar to what DOT does through the intake process, just so as we go year to year, if things are not programmed, that the local jurisdictions will have that opportunity to revise costs, update cost based on current economic circumstances.
And the total amount for Metro Plan is $3.5 million?
Yeah, based on the board's funding policy, it's $3.5 million a year, and that's why we're asking, that's in addition, when we sliced the pie, we had safety improvements, we had what was historically called complete streets, now kind of the context sensitive urban corridor improvement. We have our TISMO projects, we have our active transportation slice, we have our transit slice. So as that pie was sliced into 5 pieces, that puts about $3.5 million a year for this off-system category.
Okay, thank you.
That's one. Is there a way to pretty much eliminate all the projects that are not eligible? We can have just a list of the ones that are eligible.
When you say that, if it's not in the urbanized area, and Taylor, I might ask for confirmation, Taylor will answer this question for me. Everything in Appendix I is functionally classified and within the urban area? So everything that you'll see on that very long list of projects is eligible. We only asked for each jurisdiction to pick 3, though. I think there's a couple hundred there. So again, our needs greatly outweigh available resources, but this is our way of starting to chip away and give the local governments a means to a safety end.
Thank you. Anyone else? I also think, Umberto, your question about the funding year would happen more after we get through this process of it being on the list and actually once it goes into LAP, because once you have the agreement with LAP, you have 1 year to spend that funds in that fiscal year you're in. So it's really more of, we're getting ahead of ourselves, I think. It's a lot of the LAP process is gonna control a lot of the questions we've had. But I would say with that, if you haven't been LAP certified, it takes a year, year and a half, and a minimum of 40 to 48 hours of training, 5 or 6 staff members. It's a lot. So if you want to do it now, you have to already be getting certified. And with that, there is an avenue I don't think anyone has explored recently. The cities can't become just LAP certified across the city. It has to be project specific. So that year-long process is every single project. The counties can become LAP certified, and maybe there's a way that the county becomes LAP certified and we put our projects under the county and go through that. I don't know how that would work, but that's something I was reading where a county could become certified across the county and it wouldn't have to be project specific. So
Brian, you want to respond? Brian probably has the most LAP experience in the room, so.
Yeah, it's difficult. Just say that. Noted. Alex, I got a different question for you. Let's say you land a design project. Is there any guarantee that you'll have funding for the next phase, construction CEI?
Yeah, our approach is to finish what we start. So if your number 1 priority, it's to implement that project through its life. So we're not going to reshuffle the deck every single year. It's not our intent unless that's the will. That's not going to be my staff's recommendation, but if that's the will of the groups, of course. But I wouldn't recommend that, just to kind of keep continuity in the work program, and the shuffling certainly doesn't help. I believe FDOT is requiring even the counties to do project by project LAP certification.
While it's in the lap guidelines, the precedent that has been set, at least with the lap group now at District 5, within District 5, is its project-specific certification.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, that I think DOT now is only allowing project by project certification, not countywide.
I'm just saying, in the current lap manual, they allow it. It's just no one has pushed for it yet, I don't think. It's,
Well, it used to be agency, you would be agency certified and then you would implement projects for one reason or another, and I'm not going to speak for the department today. It has gone to project specific.
so just know, it takes a lot to get lap certified, and it's a lot of training, and oh, and you also have to have an ADA transition plan. So if you don't have that, you have 3 years from being certified to have that implemented, or you won't get recertified. So there's a lot. I won't volunteer Brian, but if he wants to answer questions, he can. I will also answer offline. And I know Castleberry as well went through a lot of that. So between and Chad, so between the 4 of us, we can help you.
But there is time between now and fiscal 32, so we have 4.5
Yeah.
years to sort through that.
Around the corner, Alex. It's around the
You're
corner.
telling me I'm a long range planner, so that's everything is.
Yeah, that's next year in lap years. The only other thing, and I'll stop after that, is right of way. If you have a project that you want to put into the lap program and you're getting right of way, call DOT immediately, because there's federal requirements that you need to do. Even if you bought the right of way and then 2 years later start the project, you may not be eligible because of how you got that right of way. So just don't exclude yourself. Just ask the question.
I have another,
Absolute lack of guidance on that.
Yes.
Area versus design and construction is very cut and dry. This is.
Yeah, right away is tough. Mark?
another question on option B, did staff consider using the Vision Zero task force for the method, approach, and prioritization? And if not, what would be like the challenges or strengths to using them instead of a ad hoc working group?
Yeah, I would say that the challenge kind of off the cuff here is just the size of that group. It's actually larger than the technical advisory committee. It also includes representatives who are not standing advisors to the Metro Plan Orlando board. And because they're going to be reporting back to the technical advisory committee, that was our envision. So, not to put a number on it, but I would certainly say less than 10, I'd probably say like 7-ish, if we're trying to get into option B, just to make sure that we can all fit at a table, not sitting at a big dais. So because we will be working through reviewing the applications and providing a recommendation. So the intent with the working group is to have a smaller group that we can convene one or multiple times during that process to make sure that we can kind of meet. I'm not opposed to the Vision Zero task force, but my concern is the size and scale of that group. Because I think it's TAC plus TISMO plus 3 from CAC plus a couple nonprofits plus a couple law enforcement officers. So I think it's a 60 plus list.
All right.
And if we are going through option B, if that is the will of the group today, we will be requesting volunteers.
I guess to move that along, is there any opposition to going with option B? Since this isn't a vote, I'd say if you're against going with option B, can you put your name tag up so that we can just see if there's any opposition? So we're all okay with going with option B. So then I would like to hear volunteers or anybody that would like to be on it.
I'll
Please.
volunteer as tribute.
And I recommend you volunteer yourself. Don't nominate
Yes.
people, because
Please.
this is a group that we need people that want to be on the group.
I'll volunteer also.
And I volunteer myself also for Orange County, Bert.
So we had Umberto, Laura, and who's in the back? And Lori, thank you.
I'll volunteer. Is
Okay.
that okay? You're an alternate. Oh, okay, I guess I can't.
Ashley, did you? Okay. So that's 3. So I would like to get to that 5 or 7.
All right, so I'll do it for
All right.
Osceola, Jennifer.
I'll volunteer. So then we have Jennifer and Lenny. So that's 5. Is there any others?
Do we have an Orange City? City of Orlando, pardon me. And Osceola City, we have Kissimmee. We have 6 then?
We have 5.
We have a
1,
county,
2,
city.
3.
The county then.
5.
Seminole County or
Oh,
another jurisdiction.
We don't want.
But do we want-
Seminole and a Seminole.
I think it would
Yeah.
be best to have a county representative and at least one municipal partner.
So. Arturo.
Yeah, Arturo and Matt can do rock, paper, scissors. if that's what they wanna do.
All right. I think that's everyone, right? Miles, you wanna?
As a tiebreak, perhaps? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll be number 7. I'll be the cross county kid. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank
So
you.
we'll refer back and we'll coordinate with that group as a subset. But again, everything that they discuss, everything that they take up will come back to this technical advisory committee for approval.
Can I say just one thing? I just want to make sure everybody understands that this is for 2032, right? So if you have a project that's safety and you need it soon, I wouldn't even put your application in, right? I mean, that's pretty much what that means.
It's a challenge within the federalized process. So we're always
Yeah.
loading, no matter what whether it's safety, a trail, a signal head, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. We're always 4 or 5 years out in the
Right.
programming
And then
cycle.
that's the challenge. So I mean, for projects we have that are pretty urgent, that's kind of doesn't do us a lot of good. If we need it taken care of immediately, so.
Absolutely. So keep that in mind as well as you're submitting applications. And that's why we want to kind of give that back to you to make sure that you're advancing the ones that you want to federalize, because you will have to jump through some of those extra hoops to access the funding.
And Charles, I'm sorry, I didn't see you back there.
Your lab certificates are valid for only 3 years now.
Mhm.
So you should be reminded of that. So you should look to see if you already have lab certificates for all those. I just did like a week and a half of training.
Yep.
Yeah, because I thought mine were all valid, but it's only valid for 3 years now. So you should look like a year in advance and update your certificates.
And
Yeah.
once you're programmed, that's where the DOT work program and local agency program teams will certainly hold you accountable to those requirements. Any other questions?
I don't see any. Thank you, Alex.
All right, sounds good. If you, as a group, I know we're going to lean on a working group, but if the larger technical advisory committee has any feedback that they'd like to offer on the draft guidelines that we can then relay to that working group, let us know over the next couple of weeks, and we'll make sure that as we convene that working group, that we raise kind of the larger group's thoughts before that comes back to you. And if I may, Mr. Chair, one other item, I do want to say thank you. One other item, and I think he's still in the room. This is Jason Sartorio's last tip amendment with Metro Plan Orlando. I know he's been a fixture of your agendas and all of our advisory committee agendas over the past 2.5 years. Jason has accepted a position with Charles. I don't know what he was thinking. Just kidding. But he has accepted a position with the city of Winter Park, so he's not going to be a stranger to the technical advisory committee. But I do want to publicly thank Jason for his service. Takes a lot of the tough questions from you, as well as our citizens advisory committee and board from this podium. So he's done a lot of good work over the past couple of years, but he's moving on to the municipal side of things. So I want to thank Jason for his time, but again, we'll likely see him around in other forms.
Thank you, Jason. I'm gonna miss those tip amendments. It won't be the same. It won't be the same. All right, so moving on to general information. There are several items in the general information portion of the agenda packets, which is in section 5. I wanted to go over our upcoming meetings of interest. The next technical advisory committee meeting is held in person on Friday, December 5th. The next Metro Plan Orlando board meeting is held in person on Wednesday, November 12th at 9 a.m. A full list of meetings are in your agenda. I would like to call for, moving on to member comments, I'd like to call for any comments from committee members and any other business. Miles?
Hey, everybody. So Lynx is conducting a customer satisfaction survey right now. The past few weeks, we've had our our friends at Kittleson out surveying on buses and at key stops. We've also got an online survey open right now. So that's the online portion is going to run through November. So if you're interested, if you'd be so kind as to share that through your various platforms, we would greatly appreciate it. You can find it on the golinks.com homepage. We can also send a link out, but that's going to help inform any updates to our county respective transit plans, to our TDP major update, which we're going to start next year. And it's also been since like 2017 since we've done a customer satisfaction specific survey. So if there's any interest, we can share that at a later date with you all, just so you know what are people saying they want. But yeah, we really appreciate, helping spread the word on that survey.
Thanks, Miles. Yeah, I think the link would be great because maybe it's a way that we can put it on some of our city websites or county websites where it's, hey, here's you have an issue. Yeah, it's awesome. Any other business?
Yes.
Laura?
First, I wanted to say congrats to Metro Plan for the award they received last night at the WTS Gala. I believe it was a regional partnerships award for the Vision Zero action plan. And then from the city of Orlando, just wanted to tease and do a little soft launch of our Vision Zero progress report. It's available on orlando.gov/vision zero. This is our 5-year report on what's happened since we adopted. Some key takeaways are that while there was an uptick in 2021, in the last 5 years, we did see a 40% drop in deadly and serious injuries. And so that's about 56 fewer people having life-altering injuries on our roads in Orlando. That's, I think, more than who are in this room. So that's really exciting. I hope that that's motivation for y'all as you're embarking on your safety action plans as well. And then on there, we have a really great story map that shows over 100, or I think it's exactly 100 safety projects the city's done in the last 5 years. Not all of these are my projects. Those are from our engineering division, from Public Works, through partnerships with OUC and all of that. So a huge thanks to anyone who has made any of those projects possible for us. And shout out to Michael Greco, who really put that progress report together and that story map. So take a look at that.
Thanks, Laura. I wanted to mention, I know Slade brought it up earlier, but the Florida Automated Vehicle Conference, November 5th, 6th, 7th. It's really shows how we're moving the needle in a lot of things. And you got to say it, the Carson, the new autonomous vehicle that we will be deploying in January, will be at the FAV. So you can actually touch, feel, and see how it's running. And I believe there's even going to be a test drive that you can test it out and get on with that. So if you haven't signed up, please do. If the registration's closed, look out for next year. It's a great conference, 3 days. You see a lot of what's going on.
I think it's still open.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
And it's right here. It's what, Champions Gate?
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I will now move on to public comments. We will now hear public comments on all business. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to comment?
No hands raised online.
Do we have any members of the public in person that wish to make a public comment?
No comments received.
Slade, are there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting?
None were received.
Okay. And with that, at 11:57, I adjourn. Look at that. That was a